Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for this online undergraduate research seminar, Social Sciences Plenary Talk. My name is Elizabeth Bennette, and I'm a fourth-year developmental psychology undergraduate. Today, I'll be sharing a bit about my research project done under the advisorship of Dr. Adina Schachner, investigating children's understanding of perception and physical interaction over video chat. So the first question I'd like to ask is, why study video chat with children at all? Well, when considering this study, there are a few things to keep in mind. First of all, studying the social and psychological impact of technology use during these modern times is critical. In the 21st century, there's been a rapid introduction of new tech and integration of digital media into our lives that's completely unprecedented and understudied. Additionally, recent social distancing measures introduced by the emergence of COVID-19 has caused us to rely on our technology like never before. Typical face-to-face interactions at work, at school, and with extended family and friends are being replaced with emails, phone calls, and most recently, video chat. Video chat platforms like Zoom, Skype, and FaceTime are being used as social surrogates in the home, with families reporting even more video chat usage than ever. Parents in particular are relying on video chat to support the necessary socialization for early cognitive development in children, coordinating video chat playdates, and facilitating learning from home. However, families are quickly discovering that video chat is not completely interchangeable with real-life interactions. In fact, video chat is a very interesting medium. It serves as both a representation of a person, like a photo would, so you can't interact with them like using a hug or a handshake. But at the same time, it has qualities that go beyond representation. You have a true, memorable interaction with the person over this medium. You can have a conversation where you exchange thoughts and ideas. And so what we were interested in designing was a study to see how this early and frequent usage of an interesting platform like video chat impacts a developing mind. To address these questions, it's important to refer to previous literature to explore pre-established findings with regards to the representational nature of video chat. There's been plenty of work identifying some of the developmental milestones that come along with understanding pictorial representations. More specifically, by 9 months of age, young children are able to transfer information from photos to real-life objects, but they still make the mistake of grasping objects through photographs. But typically, research has shown that these mistakes are fixed by age 2. Additional previous works have even looked into more forms of digital media, like television. Earlier research has shown that by around 9 months, children attempt to grasp moving objects on a screen, just like they do in photos. But they quickly develop the ability to point to objects on a television screen, showing that they obtain an understanding of the representational nature of television by around 15 to 19 months. So one of the most interesting studies within this field of work addresses the question of whether or not children actually think of television images as photos or as real objects. Researchers Flavell et al. Designed a study with 3- and 4-year-olds, asking them about the physical properties of 3 different mediums: television footage of an object, photos of an object, or a real-life object. So for example, they would show a participant television footage of a bouncing ball and ask, if I turn this TV upside down, will the ball fall out or not? And then they would compare their answers to comparable questions about a photo of a ball and a real-life ball. And the results of this study are also quite interesting. Their first main finding was that 4-year-olds are able to distinguish between photos, videos, and reality. And their second finding was that 4-year-olds, compared to 3-year-olds, were able to respond in their representations in a little bit more of an adult-like way. So all of these previous works are showing that at an early age, children struggle to understand the physical constraints posed by television and photos. But as they age, their mastery over these mediums improves. So what we're interested in asking, given all of these findings, is the following. Are children's understanding of video chat more similar to real life or more similar to photos? Flavell et al. Provides an interesting framework for investigating these questions, and we decided to incorporate these into our own methods. We designed a study that compared children's interpretation of video chat interactions to real life and to photo interactions, comparing these presentation types across 4 different modalities or means of interaction. So now let's dive into the methods and logic for this study. This is an experimental and within subject study completed by 44 different 4-year-old children. The independent variables included those aforementioned presentation types. So we asked children about real-life interactions, interactions with a photo, and interactions with a video chat. And we're also asking about different modalities, which include their social partner's ability to see, hear, feel, and exchange an item with them. The dependent variable is the child's response to those questions about the presentation types and the modalities. And all of our testing was completed on campus in our McGill Hall lab space. Now let's look a little closer at what a typical experiment would look like for an average participant. All participants were seated in the lab space across from an experimenter who asked them questions about a social partner. So this grid breaks down all of the questions the children will be asked during any given visit. Along the left side here, we have questions separated by presentation type. Real interactions involve another experimenter who's seated in the room with the participant. Photo interactions involve a photo of a different experimenter who's presented to the child. Video chat interactions involve an experimenter presented on video chat call on an iPad. And within each of these presentation types, we have more specific questions about the interactions. Along the top of the grid, we have modalities listed out. The first question we ask is about the experimenter's ability to see an object placed in front of them. The next question we ask is whether the experimenter can hear a sound when played in the room. The third question asks whether or not they can feel another person touching them. And the last question asks whether they can exchange an object with someone else. We actually designed these studies so that the anticipated adult-like responses would all be yes for the real presentation type, no for the photo presentation type, and a mix of yes and no for the video chat presentation type. This structure allows us to make comparisons between the different presentation types according to each modality. Now, to give some more details about each lab session and the questions themselves, here's some more information about the general study progression. So with each study type, the child was asked the following questions. So for sight, a stuffed animal was placed in front of the experimenter and the interviewer asked the child, does the experimenter see the stuffed animal or does she not see it? And for sound, a handbell was rung by the interviewer and the child was asked, does the experimenter hear the bell or does she not see it? And for touch, the interviewer would poke the experimenter in the arm and ask, does the interviewer feel me poking her or does she not feel me poking her? And finally, for physical exchange, the interviewer asked the child, can I use this hair to put experimenter's hair in a ponytail or can I not use it to put her hair in a ponytail? On the bottom right of the screen, you can see some images taken from a typical lab session. The child is seated on the left, with the interviewer on the right. The interviewer would ask these 4 questions in the presence of a real experimenter, a photo of an experimenter, and in a video chat session. After collecting 44 participant responses, we were able to yield the following results. Now, this graph breaks down our collected results. Keep in mind our main question as we navigate these findings. Are children's understanding of video chat more like real life or more like photos? Now, along the x-axis, we have the 4 modalities: sight, sound, touch, and physical exchange. And each different colorblind in the graph represents a different presentation type. So the light blue line represents the real presentation type, the dark blue line represents the video chat presentation type, and the red represents the photo presentation type. Along the y-axis, we see the proportion of children responding yes, or in other words, we're measuring the amount of children who respond to the questions about each modality with the answer yes. Now, the majority of the children understood questions about the real-life interactions, so they responded yes to almost all the questions, and the light blue line is near the top of the graph. And the majority of the children understood the nature of the photos, so they responded no to almost all the questions, and that red line is closer to the bottom of the graph. Now, the data that we were the most interested in is actually represented by the dark blue line. We focus in on the first data point, and we can see that the children are responding to questions about the sight component of video chat, just like they do in real life. The second data point, on the other hand, tells a bit of a different story. The children's responses to questions about the hearing component of video chat is not similar to the real condition or to the photo condition. The third and fourth data points, however, are consistent with our expectations. Children respond to questions about video chat ability to facilitate touch and physical exchange, just like they do in photos. So to recap, this research has shown that children know that just like in a real conversation, a person they're interacting with over video chat has the ability to see. They also realize that video chat introduces some physical constraints that keep it from being a truly realistic conversation. However, children lack this kind of certainty when it comes to a person's ability to hear over video chat. So the study process is to ask the question, so now what? And the project team has a few ideas about where to take the study next. We're interested in questions like, what role did experience play in understanding video chat? So for example, would a kid who has more exposure to video chat have a better understanding of it? We're also interested in understanding whether or not this learning and working from home will introduce any cohort effects for young children. And finally, we'd like to know if there are any long-term developmental effects of this degree of exposure. Thank you so much for joining me for this talk. I'd like to extend a special thanks to all of the researchers who have contributed to this project and share my contact information with any viewers with questions or comments. Thank you.